Why me? You think to yourself as you're carried to who knows where, with an old, worn sack over your head, and the only thing visible is the small amount of light shining through, not to mention that your hands and feet were tied together. This marked the last time you helped Rarity to gather gems ever again. Granted, you didn't think anything of it when she told you it was near Diamond Dog territory when you started, but you thought they were just wild dogs, which, either way, would have been bad. You were distracted from your thoughts as the little light you had vanished and the smell of dirt and mud filled the air. "Where the hell are you taking me?" you asked what you assumed were diamond dogs that had abducted you, being you were near the turf and all. "It talks?" a female voice asked, though rough and rather deep. You could still tell it was female. "Apparently," another female's voice answers her. "Yeah, thanks for answering me," you say with heavy sarcasm. After a few more moments of a bumpy ride, you're tossed to the ground. You hear them talking with each other, probably deciding what to do with their newest catch. That was, if they could figure out what you were and what you could do. One of them yanks the sack off your head, giving you a chance to quickly take in your surroundings, which wasn't much, given the lack of light. But that quickly changed as one of them lit a hand torch, as well as several others lining the wall. It looked as though you were in an underground cave, or mining system. There were too many tunnels to count, most of which probably led to other areas, and hopefully the exit, if you ever got free. You look forward to see several bipedal dog-like creatures curiously staring at you. One of your assumptions were correct. They were all female. This was pretty obvious, with the fact that you could see their breasts, with none of them wearing any clothing besides the occasional jacket or collar. "What are you?" one of them asked, trying to observe you from every angle. "I could ask you the same question," you said, turning your head over your shoulder to look at her. "Just answer," another barked. All right. Well, I'm a human," you answer simply. "Yeah, right. Humans don't exist," one says with a chuckle. "If I didn't exist, how could you have caught me?" You raise an eyebrow. This shut her up instantly. "Anyway, are you all diamond dogs?" "We are. And we saw you and that little pony near our territory," one said, walking forward as the others moved aside. "So, kidnapping me was your solution on how to get rid of us?" you said flatly, looking around for an exit instead of looking at the approaching diamond dog. "I was curious about you," she said, walking closer and grabbing the collar of your shirt and lifting you up and holding you close to her muzzle as she looked you over. You didn't know how strong diamond dogs could really be until now. She was smaller than you and was holding you up like it was nothing." "You're rather scrawny, but I'm sure we can change that and put you to some use. Maybe you'll do better than my brother did with that annoying pony you were with," she says, dropping you to the ground. You grunt a small amount of pain and try to pull yourself up as the one who dropped you started barking orders to the others. Two of them drag you behind them as they follow her. She is obviously the alpha dog of this pack, from the way she acted as well as how the others obeyed her. "What the hell are you planning to do with me?" you ask her as you struggle to get free from your binds. "You'll see," she smirks. "But for now, you're going to stay here," she said as you arrived at what looked to be a prison. She opened one of the cells, and her lackey dumped you inside and cut your bonds, as you rushed for the door before she closed it and locked it on you. Let me out, you demanded, gripping the bars. You aren't really in any position to make demands, she said with a smirk as she spun the keys round on her finger. I'll be back in a few hours. Behave, she said, walking off. As she did, you finally took notice of how she looked. She wore a dark pink jacket and a jet black diamond dog studded collar. Yet, your eyes traveled south real quick as you saw how wide her hips were, as well as how well rotund her rump was. She noticed you looking and smirked, making sure to put more sway in her hips as she left. By the way, the name's Roxy, she said, giving you one last teasing glance of her thick hips as she disappeared around the corner. You blushed brightly and slouched against the wall yourself inside. Fuck. A few hours passed, and it was probably among the most torturous few hours of your life. It seemed every diamond dog here was female, and each made it a point to pass your cell and give you a front row seat at seeing their ample asses. Some not even bothering acting as if they were doing any other thing and it was an accident, as they just bent over from your cell and shook their butt. They got a kick out of you, blushing and crossing your legs. Every ass you looked at looked large and just so amazing. Yet none could compare to that alpha, Roxy, who left you here. You think back to those perfectly rounded pillows and how they jiggled when she swayed her hips. You licked your lips at the thoughts of groping those massive orbs, feeling the furry flesh molding between your fingers. Hey human, a familiar voice barked, waking you from your booty-filled dreams. I finally found something you could do. She chuckled. The name's Anon, you said, looking towards the cell door and seeing her standing there with the key in her hand. Whatever, just come with me. Don't try running. I have every path blocked off, she said, opening the door and motioning you to follow. You facepalmed as you learned there was no way in hell you were going to get out of here unless someone came for you. You nodded and followed her away from your cell, leading you deeper into the labyrinth that was her pack's home. As you followed, you tried your best to keep your eyes looking anywhere but where they were now. Roxy's ass seemed to draw your attention more than it should. Watching it sway and jiggle, you think you could even bounce coins off of it. There was even a hint of some well-toned muscle on her glorious rump of hers. Hey perv, eyes up north. For now, she said as she looked over her shoulder. You snapped her attention, seeing that you didn't want her beating the crud out of you, especially from her show of strength earlier. After several more minutes, you noticed she led you to a surprisingly decent room compared to everything else you saw in the tunnels. Unlike your cell, this room had a bed, which you assumed was stolen or traded. It looked much cleaner than the dirt and mud-filled rooms you had passed on your way here. It seemed very out of place, making you question why she had it. Why are we here? You asked, still looking around. Well, I told you earlier I had you kidnapped because I was interested in you. And after hearing how you reacted every time you see a good ass, I knew you would be a perfect candidate. She smirked, crossing her arms. You blushed bright red. Candidate for what? Be my new toy, she said as she grabbed you by your shirt and threw you onto the bed. After reorienting yourself, you notice her massive ass hovering over your face. You feel blood rushing south as she plants those amazing orbs on your face. You could feel the warm, slightly flabby flesh of her ass surround your head. and you're greeted with a thick, musky scent that seemed to turn you on even more. Get to work, Roxy barked, pressing down on you. You were stunned at what was happening. It was morally wrong, but you were too horny to care anymore. You quickly grabbed her fat cheeks and felt the fur and flesh ripple under your touch. From the soft moans Roxy gave, you could tell that her rear was super sensitive. You gave her ass a firm slap, making her groan in pleasure. You began massaging and kissing the thick mounds that filled your vision. The warm feeling of her cheeks spread through your body, and you groped them. Your attention was soon drawn to her lower lips as her arousal became more obvious. You moved your head forward and gave it a teasing lick, making her grind harder against you. You're better at this than I thought, Roxy said, giving another soft moan. You smirked and decided to give her a small surprise as you licked her star and give her plump ass another smack. She gasped and started panting as she felt herself getting hotter, and sweat started to mat her fur. The musky scent grew, and the erection in your pants was painfully hard. You figured the only way you were going to be allowed to get up or get off is if you pleasured Roxy until she reached her climax. You run your tongue along her tight pucker and push into her, making her moan loudly at the intrusion. Your tongue explores deep within her. Your hands felt the sweat on her gorgeous body as your hand groped every inch you could reach. You worked for what felt like hours to get her off. Fuck! She barked as she came, the feeling of her juices coating your face and hair. Her tongue hung out of her mouth as she panted from the pleasure racing through her body. She lifted herself off of you, giving you a chance to breathe somewhat decent air, and to see that she was taking off what little article of clothing she had, and tossing them aside. So, can I go? You asked, even though the boner in your pants was screaming at you to stay, get some more of that round, plump, firm ass. No way, Anon. I see that bone you got tucked away, and I want to play with it. She growls, tackling you and clawing off your pants. You yelped at the sudden attack and blush for the millionth time as she inspects your dick. She gives it a lick with her thick tongue, making you moan and buck your hips a little. She smirked, liking your reaction before she laughed at it like a treat, even sucking on the head as pre-cum leaked from the tip. You have an interesting taste and scent for a human, she says as she gives you a final lick before leaving you on the edge. Sorry, you're not allowed to come until I say so. And if you don't, you'll be working in the mines for the rest of your life. Got it, you say as your cock twitches, wanting release so badly. Good, she says, bending over and raising her bouncy rump into the air, waggling her tail. You should know what to do. You nod and get behind her, spreading her cheeks, taking a moment to enjoy the feeling of the doughy flesh molding between your fingers. You grope them, taking time to enjoy the jiggling warmth, as well as the thickness of her bountiful rear in your hands. Your mouth waters slightly at the great sight before you, and your member was just barely rubbing against it, reminding you that you're already so close to blowing. Fucking put it in already, Anon. Roxy barks back at you with a small snarl as her tail smacks you out of your trance. You rub your sore cheek for a moment before you decided to move forward. You spread her cheeks, revealing her tight pucker. Still slightly wet from your earlier exploits, You push forward, feeling her glutes sandwiching your member between them. Ah! You moan. A short burst of pleasure shot up your spine, causing pre-cum to leak from your tip. You thrust your hips forward, penetrating her tight ass. Fuck! She growls in pleasured pain. You feel bigger than you look. You moan and thrust into her ass with great gusto. Her hot passage was the greatest thing you've ever felt. The tightness felt out of this world as you thrust into her. Her massive ass bouncing and jiggling was a bonus, watching the ripples traveling through her plus-sized mouth. Roxy gave off loud moans, each thrust making her wetter and wetter, the foreign feeling of your dick only making it better. She raised her rump higher as she held onto her pillow and stuffed her face into it, muffling her slutty moans of pleasure. She thrust back onto you, meeting every thrust you gave, only making her the rear look fatter and more fuckable than before. Pre-cum flowed from your tip like a river as you held on for dear life, desperately trying not to come. I don't know how much longer I can hold back. She grunts as your thrust speeds up, dripping her ass with all you have. You come before me and you're dead, Roxy threatened as her breathing was more ragged before. She suddenly changed positions such that you were laying on your back and she was bouncing on it, forcing you deeper into her. Shocks of pleasure raced up both your spines as she grew tighter. You spread her anus out further than you ever had before. You raised and lowered her wide tush at a blinding pace as she howled in pleasure. Her claw started to tease her own dripping snatch as she felt her orgasm near. Fuck, 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 Roxy cried out as she came, her ass clenching down hard on your member. You felt her back door tighten around you, her loud cries and howls, telling you that she reached her peak. You gave a hard thrust and pumped her with several jets of cum, painting her insides white. Roxy gasped, feeling your cock throbbing and firing off into her, the liquid getting deep into her. Holy shit. You pant as you start to come down from your high, still spurting into her. This was by far the longest and most extraordinary orgasm you've ever had. Roxy slowly pulled off of you as a few final shots of your seed landed on her ass. You laid back, your body slightly twitching from such an amazing experience. Seems like you've some use after all, she said, scooping up some cum from her bubbly butt and licking her claw clean. Well, being my personal fuck toy will now be your new job. Roxy smirked before she wobbly got off her bed and left the room, not caring if your cum still covered her buttocks or leaked out her puckered entrance. She came back a moment later with a collar and attached it around your neck. Maybe trading with unicorns is a good thing. This will make sure I can find you no matter where you are. You're now my mate. The walk back to Ponyville was a blur, and rather cold, seeing that you were pantless, thanks to Roxy tearing them apart, only a few hours before. Not to mention, it seemed like the moon had taken the place of the sun in your absence. After a quick explanation to Rarity and her friends, you went back to your home, the collar still hanging around your neck. You traced your hand along it, thinking about what Roxy said, along with the dirty deed you and her performed, casing your little friend to spring back to life. Looks like I'll be paying my new mate a visit soon. Thank you so much for listening. God, I mean, this is the first one I've done that's of any decent length, and it feels really weird. I mean, it's been like a month or something since I've actually properly done something. Oh my god. I mean, I feel that my execution here is not up to par. I mean, I think I messed up a few lines here and there. I mean, it doesn't sound as good as it could, and I'm trying to get back into the swing of things. So yeah, hope you enjoyed it. And hey, shh. This is a secret just between you and me. I'll be doing a secret reading, which I'll make only available at the end of videos as a annotation thing for those who actually stay to the end to listen, and those who've actually been listening to my things to the end. So yeah, that'll be fun, wouldn't it? Bye bye.